The crystal chandeliers cast harsh shadows across the mahogany tables of Le Bernardin, their light catching the disapproving glances that followed Maya Chun like spotlights. She adjusted her Armani blazer, a armor of success that usually shielded her from such scrutiny. But tonight it felt paper-thin against the weight of judgment pressing down from every corner of the restaurant. "Table for one?" the hostess had asked earlier, her tone dripping with barely concealed surprise, as if Maya's presence here required explanation. Now, seated at a corner table that felt more like an island of isolation, Maya caught fragments of whispered conversations floating through the air like poison. Probably new money. These people always trying to prove something. Doesn't she know this isn't Chinatown? Maya's fingers tightened around her wine glass. 20 years of building her tech empire, of proving herself in boardrooms where she was often the only woman, the only Asian face, and still these moments could reduce her to that scared college student who once ate ramen for weeks to afford a single business suit. The soft shuffle of approaching footsteps broke through her spiraling thoughts. A young black woman materialized beside her table, order pad clutched in trembling hands. Maya's eyes immediately found the name tag pinned to her crisp white shirt. "Zara." "Good evening, ma'am. Can I start you with something to drink?" Zara's voice carried a practiced politeness, but Maya caught the slight tremor beneath it, the way her shoulders curved inward as if trying to make herself smaller. Maya looked up into Zara's face and felt something shift inside her chest. A recognition that went deeper than shared experience of being othered in spaces like this. There was something in those dark eyes, a fierce resilience wrapped in vulnerability, that reminded Maya achingly of herself at 19. The same determination to survive with dignity intact, the same careful mask worn to navigate hostile territory. "Just water for now," Maya said softly, watching as relief flickered across Zara's features at her gentle tone. As Zara turned to leave, Maya noticed the way other diners' conversations seemed to pause, their eyes tracking the young woman's movement with the same cold assessment Maya had endured upon entering. The familiar ache of recognition settled deeper in her chest, and she found herself watching Zara's retreating figure with growing concern, sensing that tonight would demand more from both of them than either had anticipated. Maya watched Zara navigate the dining room like a dancer performing choreography designed to make her invisible. Each step was calculated, each interaction measured, as if the young woman had learned that survival meant occupying as little space as possible while still fulfilling every demand placed upon her. "Zara, table 6 is complaining about their bread being cold," barked Mr. Davidson, the restaurant manager, his voice carrying across the dining room with deliberate volume. "And next time, try to smile more. You're making the customers uncomfortable." Maya observed the micro-flinch that crossed Zara's face, so brief that most would miss it, before the practiced mask of compliance slid back into place. "Yes, sir. Right away." As Zara hurried past, Maya caught the whispered comment from table 6. "These people always have an attitude problem. Probably thinks she's too good for this job." The elderly white woman's companion chuckled, adding, "Well, what do you expect? They're all the same." Maya's jaw clenched. She'd heard variations of these words her entire life, dressed up in corporate speak during board meetings or delivered with false concern at networking events. The sting never dulled. Throughout the evening, Maya became an unwilling witness to a masterclass in systemic cruelty. She watched as the other servers, all white, were assigned the prime tables near the windows while Zara was relegated to the cramped corner section. When Zara suggested wine pairings to customers, her recommendations were dismissed with patronizing smiles, but when her white colleague offered identical suggestions moments later, they were praised as insightful. "Kitchen's backed up again," Davidson announced loudly when Zara approached the pass. "Tell your tables it's going to be another 20 minutes. And Zara? Try to explain it better this time. We can't have customers thinking we don't know how to run a restaurant." Maya noticed how Davidson's tone shifted when addressing the other servers, warmer, more collaborative. With Zara, every interaction carried an undertone of blame, as if her very presence was the source of any problem that arose. Between tables, Zara moved with the exhausted grace of someone carrying invisible weights. Maya recognized that particular brand of fatigue, not just physical tiredness, but the soul-deep weariness that came from constantly proving your worth to people determined not to see it. When Zara returned with Maya's water, her hands shook slightly as she set down the glass. Maya caught a glimpse of textbooks peeking from Zara's bag behind the hostess stand, community college logos visible on the spines. 3 jobs in school, Maya realized, watching this young woman fight for a future while enduring daily humiliations that would break most people. The recognition hit Maya like a physical blow, memories of her own 19-year-old self flooding back with startling clarity. The sight of Zara's trembling hands transported Maya back 18 years, to a sterile office where a social worker had looked at her with the same dismissive judgment she witnessed tonight. Maya had been 21 then, barely scraping by on part-time jobs while finishing her computer science degree, her belly round with a child she desperately wanted to keep but couldn't afford to raise. "Miss Chen," the social worker had said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "You have to think about what's best for the baby. A single Asian mother with no family support working minimum wage jobs. This child deserves stability. A proper family." The unspoken words had hung in the air like smoke. "You're not enough. Your kind doesn't belong in this equation." Maya's fingers unconsciously traced the rim of her water glass as the memories flooded back. She remembered the adoptive family's photo, wealthy, white, smiling in their suburban perfection. The social worker had presented them like a prize Zara's daughter could win if only Maya would step aside gracefully. "Mixed-race children need special considerations," the woman had continued, as if Maya's own heritage was somehow a deficit to overcome. "The Hendersons have experience with diverse situations." Watching Zara now, Maya saw herself at 19, the same careful posture, the same way of making herself smaller to avoid confrontation, the same quiet dignity wrapped around a core of steel. Maya had learned to navigate corporate boardrooms with that same measured grace, pronouncing her name slowly for colleagues who never seemed to remember it, smiling through compliments about how articulate she was, enduring assumptions that she was someone's assistant rather than the CEO. The protective instinct that stirred in Maya's chest felt familiar yet foreign. She'd spent years burying the maternal feelings that had nearly destroyed her when she'd signed those adoption papers. But watching this young woman, so close to the age her daughter would be now, face the same systemic cruelties that had shaped Maya's own life, something fierce and long dormant began to awaken. Zara approached another table, and Maya watched the customer's eyes follow her with the same calculating assessment she'd endured countless times. The familiar rage began building in Maya's chest, but this time it felt different. Not just personal pain, but something larger and more dangerous. The rage that had been simmering in Maya's chest found its target when a boisterous group of men in expensive suits claimed the large table in Zara's section. Maya recognized the type immediately: corporate executives drunk on wine and their own perceived superiority, the kind who saw service workers as entertainment rather than human beings. Well, the ringleader announced loudly as Zara approached their table, his voice carrying across the dining room. "Look what we have here. Smile for us, sweetheart. You look so serious." Maya's grip tightened on her napkin as she watched Zara's professional mask slip into place, her smile forced and brittle. "Good evening, gentlemen. Can I start you with drinks?" "Oh, she can talk," another man laughed, deliberately knocking over his water glass. "Oops, looks like you've got some cleaning to do. Better hop to it." Maya watched in horror as the men continued their cruel game, spilling drinks, dropping food, making increasingly inappropriate comments about Zara's appearance while she cleaned up their deliberate messes. Each accident was accompanied by laughter and thinly veiled racist remarks disguised as jokes. "You know what your problem is?" the ringleader said as Zara bent to clean wine from the floor. "You people always look so angry, like the world owes you something. Maybe try being grateful for once." Zara's hands trembled as she worked, and Maya caught the moment when a single tear escaped, quickly wiped away before anyone else could see. The sight hit Maya like a physical blow, transporting her back to every moment she'd been forced to smile through humiliation, to accept cruelty with grace because fighting back meant losing everything. "Excuse me, Mr. Davidson?" Zara's voice was barely above a whisper as she approached the manager. "Could you possibly?" These gentlemen are being quite difficult and Zara, these are valued customers. Davidson cut her off, his tone sharp with irritation. If you can't handle a little friendly conversation, maybe you're too sensitive for this job. Just do your work and stop complaining. Maya watched Zara's face crumble for just an instant before the mask snapped back into place. But it was too late. Maya had seen the exact moment when hope died in those young eyes, the same death she'd experienced countless times in her own youth. "Hey, waitress!" the ringleader called out, his voice dripping with malice. "My friend here was just saying how your kind always plays the victim. What do you think? You gonna cry about it?" The words hung in the air like a slap, and Maya felt something snap inside her chest. She'd spent 20 years building walls around her heart, protecting herself from exactly this kind of pain. But watching Zara stand there, alone and defenseless against this pack of predators, Maya realized that some battles were worth fighting, regardless of the cost. Her chair scraped against the floor as she stood, her decision made. Maya's heels clicked against the marble floor with the precision of a metronome as she approached the table of tormentors. The sound cut through their laughter like a blade, and one by one, their cruel grins faltered as they registered her approach. "Gentlemen," Maya's voice carried the authority of boardrooms and billion-dollar deals, each word measured and sharp. "I couldn't help but notice your conversation with your server." The ringleader looked up with the lazy confidence of a man who'd never been challenged by someone he considered beneath him. "And you are Maya Chan, CEO of Nexus Technologies." She let the weight of her success settle over them like a shroud. "And I'm wondering if your employers would be as entertained by your behavior as you seem to be." The shift in atmosphere was immediate and electric. Maya watched recognition dawn in their eyes, not of her personally, but of what she represented. Power, influence, consequences. "Now wait just a minute," the ringleader began, but Maya cut him off with a raised hand. "No, you wait." Her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow commanded more attention than shouting. "I've been watching you terrorize this young woman for the past 20 minutes, making messes for her to clean, making racist comments disguised as jokes, treating her like she's less than human." Mr. Davidson materialized beside them, his face flushed with panic. "Ms. Chun, I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding." "The only misunderstanding," Maya continued, her gaze never leaving the men's faces, "is your belief that you can behave this way without consequences. I have 3 million followers on social media and business relationships with every major corporation in this city. One post about the racist harassment I witnessed here tonight, and this establishment's reputation will be destroyed by morning." The silence that followed was deafening. Maya could feel the entire restaurant's attention focused on their table, conversations dying as diners strained to listen. Furthermore, Maya's voice grew stronger. "I'll be contacting your companies directly. I'm sure they'd be fascinated to learn how their executives represent them in public." Zara stood frozen nearby, her eyes wide with disbelief. Maya turned to her, and for the first time that evening, spoke directly to the young woman who had unknowingly awakened something fierce and protective in her heart. "You don't have to accept this treatment," Maya said, her voice gentle but firm. "You have worth, you have dignity, and you have the right to work without being degraded." Something shifted in Zara's posture, her shoulders straightened, her chin lifted slightly. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but steady. "She's right," Zara said, looking directly at the men who had tormented her. "I don't deserve this. No one does." Maya felt a surge of pride watching this young woman find her voice, and she knew that whatever happened next, this moment had changed them both forever. The confrontation had ended with the men slinking away like scolded children, their bravado evaporating under the weight of real consequences. Mr. Davidson had stammered apologies and promises of policy changes, but Maya's attention remained fixed on Zara, who stood taller now, transformed by the simple act of being defended. "Thank you," Zara whispered, tears threatening to spill. "No one has ever. I can't believe you did that for me." Maya felt something crack open in her chest, 18 years of buried maternal instincts flooding through the fissure. Looking at Zara, really looking at her, Maya saw not just a brave young woman, but an echo of every dream she'd had to sacrifice, every opportunity she'd been denied, every moment she'd stood alone against a world determined to diminish her. Without fully understanding what drove her, Maya reached into her purse and pulled out her checkbook. Her hands moved with surprising steadiness as she wrote, the pen scratching across paper with the sound of destiny reshaping itself. "What are you doing?" Zara asked, confusion replacing gratitude in her voice. Maya tore off the check and held it out, her heart hammering against her ribs. $1 million. For your education. For your freedom from places like this. For whatever future you want to build. Zara stared at the check as if it might disappear, her hands shaking as she read the amount. "I can't. This isn't real. People don't just." "I do," Maya said softly, "because I know what it's like to fight for dignity in a world that constantly questions whether you deserve it. I know what it's like to be 19 and brilliant and broke, watching other people get opportunities that should be yours simply because of how you look or where you come from." Tears streamed down both their faces now, the emotional dam finally bursting after years of careful control. "You stood up for yourself tonight," Maya continued, her voice thick with emotion. "You found your voice when it mattered most. That courage, that strength, it's worth investing in. You're worth investing in." Zara clutched the check to her chest, overwhelmed by the magnitude of this stranger's faith in her. "Why? Why would you do this for someone you don't even know?" Maya's smile was soft and sad and full of recognition. "Because sometimes the universe gives us a chance to be the person we needed when we were young and afraid and alone." As Zara stared at her with wonder and gratitude, Maya felt a strange sense of completion, as if some cosmic circle was finally closing. Maya gathered her purse, preparing to leave this place that had become the stage for such profound transformation. The weight of what had just transpired, the confrontation, the gift, the connection, settled around her like a warm embrace she hadn't felt in years. "Wait!" Zara's voice stopped her, soft but urgent. "I need to tell you something. What you said about being 19 and alone. I was adopted. I've been searching for my birth mother since I turned 18. Maya's hand froze on her purse strap, something cold and electric shooting through her veins. "She was Asian," Zara continued, her words tumbling out in a rush. "Young in college. The adoption agency said she gave me up in 2007 because she couldn't provide for me. They said she wanted me to have a better life." The world tilted on its axis. Maya's breath caught in her throat as the impossible mathematics aligned with devastating precision. 2007, Asian, college student. The adoption agency's name that Zara mentioned was the same sterile office where Maya had signed away her heart 18 years ago. What was the agency called? Maya whispered, though she already knew the answer. "Henderson Family Services," Zara replied, and Maya's knees nearly buckled. They stared at each other across the space between them, both seeing what had been hidden in plain sight. Maya's trembling hands reached toward Zara's face, tracing features that were unmistakably her own. The shape of her eyes, the curve of her smile, the determined set of her jaw. "Oh my God!" Zara breathed, her voice breaking. You're her. You're my mother." The recognition hit them both like lightning, 18 years of separation collapsing into this single, impossible moment. Maya had defended her own daughter without knowing it, had seen her worth and invested in her future, had been drawn to protect her by bonds deeper than conscious memory. "My baby?" Maya whispered, tears streaming down her face. "My beautiful, brave baby." The restaurant around them faded into nothing as mother and daughter stood on the precipice of a reunion that would reshape everything they thought they knew about family, fate, and the mysterious ways love finds its way home. The embrace that followed shattered 18 years of carefully constructed walls. Maya pulled Zara into her arms with the desperate hunger of a mother who had never stopped loving, never stopped wondering, never stopped hoping. Zara melted into the embrace she had dreamed of her entire life, finally understanding why the stranger's defense had felt like coming home. "I never stopped thinking about you," Maya whispered against Zara's hair, her voice breaking with years of suppressed grief. "Every day, I wondered if you were safe, if you were happy, if you knew how much I loved you. I felt it, Zara sobbed, clinging to her mother as if she might disappear. Somehow, I always felt it. In every moment when I wanted to give up, something inside me whispered that I was loved, that I mattered. Around them, the restaurant had fallen silent, other diners witnessing something sacred and profound. Even Mr. Davidson stood frozen behind the hostess stand, his earlier cruelty forgotten in the face of this miraculous reunion. The crystal chandeliers that had cast such harsh judgment earlier now seemed to glow with warmth, illuminating a moment that would reshape two lives forever. Maya pulled back to study Zara's face, her hands trembling as she traced features that were unmistakably her own. The determined set of her jaw, the intelligent spark in her dark eyes, the way her mouth curved when emotion threatened to overwhelm her. "You're so beautiful," she whispered, "so strong. I saw it the moment you walked up to my table, that resilience, that dignity. I recognized it because it's mine too, because it's ours. The way you stood up for me," Zara said through her tears. "I've never had anyone fight for me like that. I've been alone for so long, trying to prove I was worth something, trying to earn my place in the world. The Hendersons were kind, but they never understood what it felt like to be different, to be questioned everywhere you go." Maya's heart broke at the pain in her daughter's voice. She thought of the social worker's words 18 years ago, the promise that the adoptive family would provide everything Maya couldn't. But they hadn't been able to give Zara the one thing she needed most, the understanding that came from shared experience, the knowledge that her struggles were seen and validated. "You were never alone," Maya said fiercely. "Even when I couldn't be with you, my love was there. And you never had to prove your worth. You've always been precious, always been enough. Every night I looked at the stars and sent you my love, hoping somehow you would feel it." The weight of their shared history settled between them, the racism they had both endured, the struggles they had faced separately, the strength they had developed in isolation. Maya realized that every boardroom where she had been underestimated, every investor who had questioned her capabilities because of her race and gender, every moment she had been forced to work twice as hard for half the recognition, had been preparing her for this moment. "I built my company thinking I was proving something to the world," Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. "But I see now that I was building the life that would allow me to find you, to protect you, to give you everything I couldn't when you were born. Every late night, every rejection, every small victory, it was all leading to this." Zara looked down at the check still clutched in her hands, the paper slightly crumpled from her grip. The amount seemed surreal, impossible, but she understood now that it represented something far more valuable than money. "This isn't just about financial freedom, is it? It's about having the power to choose, to never have to accept degradation as the price of survival." "It's an investment in justice," Maya replied, her voice growing stronger. "In a future where you don't have to smile through humiliation or accept cruelty as normal. You have a voice now and the means to use it. You can finish school without working 3 jobs. You can pursue your dreams without compromise. You can stand up to people like those men tonight and know that you have the resources to back up your dignity." The irony wasn't lost on either of them, that they had found each other through an act of resistance against the very forces that had separated them 18 years ago. The social worker's judgment, the assumption that Maya couldn't provide for a mixed-race child, the systemic barriers that had made her choice feel inevitable, all of it had led to this moment of recognition and reunion. "I want to know everything," Zara said, her voice stronger now, the tremor of earlier replaced by determination. "About you, about why you had to give me up, about how you became this incredible woman who could walk into a room and command respect. I want to understand the journey that brought you here." Maya smiled through her tears, seeing herself reflected not just in Zara's features, but in her hunger for knowledge, her refusal to accept simple answers. "And I want to know about you, your dreams, your struggles, how you survived and thrived despite everything, what you're studying, what you want to build, how you've managed to keep your spirit intact through all of this. We have so much time to make up for, so many conversations to have." As they prepared to leave, Maya noticed the transformation in the room around them. The other diners watched them with a mixture of curiosity and respect, some with tears in their own eyes. The same people who had whispered cruel comments about her presence earlier now seemed to understand that they had witnessed something extraordinary. The balance of power in the room had shifted completely. No longer was Maya the outsider seeking acceptance, but a force of nature who had claimed her rightful place and found her greatest treasure in the process. "The men who were harassing you," Maya said suddenly, her protective instincts flaring. "They'll think twice before treating anyone that way again. But more importantly, you'll never have to endure that kind of treatment in silence again. You have family now. You have backup." Zara's eyes filled with fresh tears at the word family. It was something she had longed for her entire life. Not just people who cared for her, but people who understood her struggles intimately, who could see the world through her eyes. "Are you ready?" Maya asked, extending her hand to Zara with the same gesture she might have used to help a toddler take her first steps. Zara took her mother's hand, feeling the strength and warmth that had been missing from her life for 18 years. The calluses from Maya's early struggles were still there, softened but not erased by success. "I've been ready my whole life." Together, they walked toward the restaurant's exit, their footsteps echoing with the sound of a family finally made whole. The hostile environment that had tried to diminish them both now seemed powerless against their united front. Maya's designer suit and Zara's server uniform no longer represented different worlds, but different chapters in the same story of resilience and triumph. As they reached the door, Maya turned back for one last look at the place where their lives had intersected so dramatically. The restaurant that had been a stage for cruelty and discrimination had also become the setting for the most profound moment of recognition and love either of them had ever experienced. "Thank you," Maya whispered to the universe, to fate, to whatever force had brought them together against impossible odds. Zara squeezed her mother's hand. "For what?" "For giving me the chance to be the mother you deserved, even if it took 18 years to find you. For letting me see you stand up for yourself tonight. For showing me that love really can overcome anything." They stepped out into the cool night air, the city lights twinkling like stars around them. No longer were they two women fighting separate battles against a world that questioned their worth, but a family united in their strength, their dignity, and their unshakable belief that love could overcome any obstacle. The future stretched before them, bright with possibility and the promise of never being alone again.